Welcome to the Digital Logging Trailguide. In digital, we primarily use Redis, Logstash, Elasticsearch, and Kibana for keeping track, searching, and visualizing our logs. This shows the entire overview of our logging infrastructure. LVA data center, LVB data center, and AWS. All the production apps in Las Vegas, either one of the data centers, if they're production apps, will log to a single Redis queue. All the pre-prod apps log to another Redis queue, which is in LVB. Any applications that are in AWS, prod or pre-prod, also each have an EC2 instance of Redis that they log to. Having the Redis queue allows us to recover from any network issues or Logstash issues or Elasticsearch issues that may happen without losing logs. As the logs go into the Redis queue, they're then pulled out by Logstash instances. Again, one for prod and one for pre-prod. There are no Logstash instances in Las Vegas, only in AWS. As Logstash processes the messages, it sends a metric to Graphite. For each application, it records a metric for how many messages are logged at which severity, error, info, warn, etc. So just know that that metric is there in Graphite. That's an easy way to be able to alert, say the errors suddenly go crazy. So you have a metric in Graphite already that will show that over time, and you can alert on it should it change. Okay, so all these messages get pulled using Logstash. Logstash creates a metric in Graphite, and then it sends all the data to Elasticsearch. We're using the AWS Elasticsearch service, which automatically includes Kibana as a plugin, and Kibana is what we use to search and visualize all the logs. Okay, so there's your overview of the entire logging system. Now I'm going to switch to Kibana. This is the first page you'll see in Kibana. At the top right, you can create a new search, you can save, you can open ones that are already there, you can share. Sharing is pretty powerful. Like if you share a dashboard, you can share a snapshot, which would be, this is exactly what this dashboard looks like at this point in time. Or you can just share the general link to it, which will always bring it up with the current timestamp. And then at the top right is your time picker. So right now we're just looking at the last 15 minutes, but you could look at different periods of time by choosing them here. You have a relative picker, an absolute date picker, and a quick picker. Something to know about the system is searching all these logs in Elasticsearch is very resource intensive. So if you start getting to long periods of time, you may start timing out. Any query that runs longer than 30 seconds will time out in AWS Elasticsearch. It's just how it is. You can't change it. So just be aware if you start getting timeouts, refine your search. Make it more refined or look over a shorter period of time. Something else you have here is auto refresh. So you can turn on auto refresh and you can refresh whatever you're looking at, like every 5 seconds, every 30 seconds. This is often useful for like a dashboard that sits on the wall. You might want to refresh it once a minute. We do ask that you don't save these with auto refresh turned on unless there's really a specific reason to, because what ends up happening is people open these up on their desktop or their laptop. They don't even realize auto refresh is on, and it just sits there refreshing. Like in this case, it would refresh every 5 seconds, which can be really resource intensive. So just keep that in mind. Don't save it with auto refresh turned on unless you need it. Don't leave one of these running with auto refresh turned on, again, unless you are specifically needing to use that functionality at the time. Okay, so I'm just turning that back off. Up here at the top is where you can have your query. By default, it's just star, which is everything. So this is just a bar graph over time, how many logs we're bringing in per 30 seconds across the entire production elk stack. Down below are the actual log statements. And if you click on the arrow here, you can see each field in each log statement. Okay, and then over here at the left is also every field that is getting logged over this period of time. All these queries are Lucene queries, so you may need to go do some research on how Lucene queries work, but there's a lot of information out there on that. But you can do things here like any of these field names. So one of the field names is app, and then I could specifically search for rei.com. So now this is just showing me any of the log statements that have a field called app with a value of rei.com. Pretty straightforward, and you can combine these. It's pretty powerful. You can use wildcards and quotes around things. So just go out there and play with that, but you will have to learn how the Lucene queries work to really take advantage of this tool. I'm going to move on to visualizations. So visualizations are just that. They're visualizations, but there's a lot of different types of visualizations. So if you click on New, you could create a data table, an area chart, a line chart. One of the most popular ones we use is a vertical bar chart. So there's some that people have saved. In this case, what I'm going to do is start from scratch, or a search, and a search is what gets saved in the Discover tab. So I'm just going to start from this logstash * search. Now in this case, this particular search is just a star, and like we just talked about, that's everything. So in this visualization, what I'm seeing is over the period of time I'm querying, which is 15 minutes, every single log statement is aggregated together for a total of 1.28 million log statements. Okay? Interesting, but not super useful. So let's try to make this more useful. So we could do a couple things. We could make a query here, where again, we just look at app.rei.com. Okay, still kind of boring, but now we know that for rei.com, over the last 15 minutes, we logged 469,000 statements. So that's one way. That's one way to see some data here. I'm going back to everything. Let's go to the x-axis and let's add an aggregation. And we're going to choose date histogram. That will automatically select timestamp for your field, which is what we want, and an auto interval, which is determined based on your time period you're looking at. But you could also customize this to a specific aggregation. I'm going to leave it on auto. You have to click on the apply button. Okay, so now this is a little better. We're looking at log statements for everything because of the wildcard over a 15-minute period, aggregated at 30 seconds. Now let's say we wanted to see which applications are logging. We're going to add a sub-bucket. We're going to split the bars. We're going to add an aggregation, which in this case is terms. We're going to choose a field, which in this case is app. And it's going to be a count. And we're going to hit apply. Okay, so now we're starting to get some more interesting information. So we can see that rei.com and CMS are the biggest loggers by far in the top 5. Now you're probably saying, well, there's way more than 5 applications that log. True. That's controlled by the size variable down here. You don't want to always log everything because it can just get kind of crazy and overwhelming. So that's why they allow you to set this size. So let's set it to 25. Hit apply again. Okay, so now we have a breakdown of the top 25. And you can see how some of these just don't log much of anything at all, and some of them log a ton. So there you go. There's also a legend over here by default, which you can hide if you'd like. Okay, or you can show tons of customization options are available here. Here's one thing you can do, for example, that's kind of cool. You can go to options. You can change it from stack to percentage. And then you have to hit apply. And now the top of this is 100%, the bottom 0, and it's showing you the percentage each app is logging to contribute toward 100%. Okay, so rei.com on this interval, on this 30-second interval, logged 36.6% of all the overall log statements. Okay, going over to dashboard. Dashboard is basically just a combination of visualizations and searches in the Discover tab. And you just add them by clicking this add button, and then you can put a query at the top. Now if you have a visualization that has a query and a query here, they add together. So if here I had app.rei.com and one of the visualizations had a different app, you'd end up seeing nothing because they'd cancel each other out. But they can also work together too, right? So just keep that in mind. Most of the time we save the visualizations with a wildcard just so they can be reused in a bunch of dashboards. But there might be instances where you want this one up here to be app.rei.com and you want this one down here to be a different app. That's fine. You just need to understand that that's how it works. Okay, so now up here you can do a scene query like we talked about before. You can also click on one of these fields down here. It gives you more info, but if you click on it, it will also add a filter. And it'll ask you, do you want just the filter to be the severity info, or do you want to filter to that time too? In this case, I don't want to filter to the time. I just want to filter to info. Okay, so now we only see the info log statements. Now say I wanted to see everything but the info log statements. You can hover over this, click the minus in the magnifying glass, and it'll negate it, turn it red to make it easy to see that it's negated as well, and now we see everything but info. Then down here at the bottom are the actual log statements. You can click on the arrow to see everything in the log statement. Here you also have a plus and minus, which will add one of those filters, either negated or positive, and then this icon right here toggles whether or not to show this in the overall table that you're viewing. Also keep in mind that this is paginated, so you might need to go to the next page. We try not to make these tables have too many rows in them as well, because if there's too many rows, you could end up with the dashboard taking a really long time to load while it loads all these pieces of data. Okay, you can also click on add up here at the top, and then down here at the bottom, this is something I just added recently. It's just a visualization I picked, and then you can move this around. You can edit it, and you can make it larger or smaller. So these dashboards are very customizable, and then when you're done, you'd want to hit save. And you can either save it with a new name if you want to copy, or you can just save over the top of what is already there. Okay, just going to touch on timeline really quickly. We haven't used this a lot here yet, but it's a very powerful tool. What it does is it allows you to do queries and then apply mathematical functions. So in this case, we're looking at all the REI.com logs except for Apache Access, which is our green. And you can see like how it jumps up and down so quickly, so it's kind of all over the place. So the second line, or the reddish orange line, is showing the same piece of data, but it's showing the moving average. Okay, so this is a different syntax, and you'll have to look at the docs again, and there's a link right here to the docs. But this is potentially very powerful, and it's something we might want to play with going forward. That's really all you probably need to know about Kibana. DevTools allows you to run Elasticsearch queries directly against Elasticsearch. So just know that this is here, but this isn't something you're going to be doing every day, but this is available. So play with this tool, get to know it. Lots of cool stuff you can do here. If you do something cool, be sure to share it, because this is a place where we're all learning. And that's pretty much it for logging. So thank you for listening to this trail guide.